You are being watched, and the worst part is that you're being watched by yourself. And arguably, this is a problem that 3/4 of the world is facing right now. Every room that you walk into, you are busy observing. You're busy observing how you look from the outside. You're judging yourself, sometimes others. You're adjusting your outfit, you're adjusting your smile, you're adjusting your behavior for others. And you are in this loop of perfecting things for other people. And this is not vanity, this is not a disease. This is what the modern world has done to all of us. The modern world has converted us into a group of perfectionists. Well, I'd rather say into a group of people who are continuously obsessed about what other people are thinking of them. I had done a video on something similar to this called the spotlight syndrome. The spotlight syndrome is when you feel you are in the spotlight and everyone is observing you. So what happens with this problem is that when you're continuously perfecting and performing for others, you are exhausting yourself. You won't be able to live your life to the full because you are busy living for others. Constant observation of yourself will change yourself in a way that you won't even notice. The reason why the modern world is so affected by this is because of social media. Social media amplified that was already inside of us, which was ego. And the problem with ego is that ego craves for validation. Ego craves for acceptance. Ego craves for fame. Ego craves for being the best in the room. And it would never stop seeking for validation. There's a philosopher called Al-Ghazali, and he dedicated an entire chapter of his famous work, Ihya for this particular problem, and he called it Riya. Riya is basically the concept of performing for the eyes of others rather than the truth itself. So you're not busy doing what is right. You're not busy doing what actually matters, but rather you're just busy trying to please others. And he wrote this 1,000 years before Instagram. What social media did is not that it taught you how to perform for others, but rather it gave you a platform for what your ego always wanted, which was validation. Now, the second dilemma that you're going to face when you're performing for others is that it requires constant maintenance. When you're keeping on performing for other people and you're trying to create an image of yourself, which is not who you truly are, you have to constantly maintain it, and it will get more exhausting as time passes by. Every word that you're writing on Twitter, every video you're posting, every story you're uploading, all of it comes with a big decision of what you want to be seen as. Now, this becomes a real problem when the actual self and the self that you're trying to create begins to diverge into two completely different directions. So automatically you will begin to make decisions based on what it looks like and not what it feels like. So let's take an example that you walk into a coffee shop. You walk into a coffee shop and everyone is drinking a particular latte, or everyone is buying a particular kind of coffee, and you don't like it, but you have to buy it because you want others to see that you drank it as well, and you're with the trend. And when you post it as a story, you are constantly conscious on what the other people are going to think about you, not how you will feel. So even if you don't like something, you're going to do it just because others are doing it. There is a quote of Jalaluddin Rumi: "Be empty of worrying, think of who created thought. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open?" Now, Rumi is not talking about an external prison where you're locked up behind the bars, but he is talking about the constructed self and the constructed image of yourself internally. But we don't feel like stepping outside of that door because it feels dangerous, because it is stepping out exactly as who you are and not as your constructed image. So the most exhausting role you'll play in your life is to maintain the personality that you created for other people. Now, there was actually a method to eradicate this disease, and that method was practiced by a lot of people way back, and the modern psychology is just catching up now. In the Arabic language, this practice is called Ikhlas, which means practicing sincerity and not worrying about what you look like in others' eyes. There is a quote of a famous scholar that actually describes this problem. The quote is that the heart performing for others is a heart that can never be addressed. The performing life that is being lived by a lot of people around the world is a life that creates a big void. The reason for this void is because you're performing outward. You're performing for other people, for approval, for fame. However, when you stop that and perform for yourself, perform for who created you, you can easily close that void. So sincerity is not a spiritual luxury, but rather it is the only sustainable way of life. Now let's talk about the cost of performing. When you are performing for other people, you cannot be creative, because creativity requires freedom. And if you're locked up inside the cage that you've built around yourself, a cage that actually displays the image that you've created for other people, you won't be able to completely produce the creativity that you actually possess. Now, the second cost of performing for other people is that you cannot build genuine relationships. You cannot genuinely connect with people. You cannot speak or interact with someone honestly because you will be busy maintaining the version of you that is fake, that doesn't truly exist. And that is very hard. And people don't connect with your highlight reel or your Instagram post. People actually connect with who you truly are, the actual human being that you are. Now, the third cost of performing is that it is extremely energetically expensive. You have to be maintaining the energy that you are trying to create for other people. And that depletes the reserves for your real work, real productivity, real creativity. Something that you can do to experience this is that this week, if you go out and do something for someone, it can be charity, it can be just a simple help. If you sincerely do it without wanting anyone to know about it, that would feel genuinely inspiring and beautiful. And that is something that you should experience. So the most radical thing that you can do in a world that is completely performing is just be real.